I guess we try. I'm gonna try to make sure that I'm gonna hopefully stream issue is fixed. Be live. Okay, let me ping my Discord one quick time. Hoping this is working now. Okay, so I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on with my internet. Stream is being weird. The weird thing is that like there's no like internet connection to my computer. My wife's playing a ranked game, literally no issues whatsoever. But streaming has had a little red bar issues, and I cannot connect to Twitch on my phone. I cannot. So literally can't read. I cannot connect to my Wi-Fi on my phone. It refuses to connect to my Wi-Fi on my phone or on either phone. So I'm just typical network internet issues that just don't even make any sense whatsoever. So chat, I love you. We're gonna get into our collaboration right here, and this should be hopefully no issues. Let's get started. I feel horrible because I still don't remember how to pronounce your name.
No worries at all. Psev.
Psev. So I'm not going to call you Psev like some dimwit. Okay. Psev. Okay. Psev, I'm so excited to have you on. It's been a long time since the Kiriko foolishness. How's life going? How's the coaching?
Pretty good, actually. Been doing a lot better in terms of like learning and improving. So
okay.
How about
sick. Doing okay outside of the obvious internet issue. So break me down what we're looking at today for those in chat that maybe aren't familiar with you or your work or what we're going to be looking at today.
So I am a mechanics coach, meaning I focus on like positioning, I focus on movement, I focus on aim.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to break down today some VODs that I got from a higher level soldier player, who is in the kind of community of just mechanics, and I wanted to break down how kind of you can improve your mechanics overall.
Okay.
As a player.
Sick. So when you say you're a mechanics coach, what kind of things are you looking at here? Because a lot of people just hear, including myself included, just hear mechanics are thinking, crosshair placement, finding sensitivity, maybe practice routines, but I assume it's a lot more complicated than that. So when we're talking mechanics, where does that conversation start and where does it end, I guess?
So it depends on really what you're looking for. If I'm doing more of an in-game Overwatch VOD like I'm doing today, it's going to start with me usually talking to someone about their daily routine, stuff like that, and then we go into the game.
Right.
And then I focus just on basically what I focus on specifically is everything around and surrounding your aim and how to improve that.
Okay.
Here. I can go live now.
Yeah, do it up. I was fixing to get my Microsoft Paint, but this will be easier. Okay, let me get this pop out.
All right.
Full screen, and I think we should be good.
Awesome. So
yeah, we're good.
I just wanted to break down before everything else. Aim is very kind of complex, right? I like to break it down into 3 different categories: positioning, movement, and mouse control. Now, what that kind of means is positioning is how you're positioning, obviously, right? How you're forcing the enemy to position, just stuff like that. Really basic, just in terms of how can I minimize my hitbox while maximizing what I can see of the enemy.
Okay.
Movement is very straightforward, how you're moving. However, you can kind of break that down more into things like dodge and things like strafe aim, which I'll be talking about a lot. I'll come back to that. And then mouse control, which is your raw ability to move your mouse from point A to point B.
Okay.
Now, all those things combined is how you can aim and how well you aim, right? So since movement's a big thing in Overwatch, I want to touch especially on dodge and strafe aim.
Okay.
Now, the difference between the two is dodging is when you are avoiding damage and strafe aim is when you are trying to put damage out.
Okay. So strafing is like moving to try and make the enemy team miss their shots, but also I'm actively shooting at the same time. Dodging is I'm not shooting really at all. I'm just focused solely on survival.
So you can still be shooting during those times. It's just more so the different types of way you can actually physically move.
I got it.
Right?
Okay.
Because I'll find the actual first example here, but strafe aim is a big thing in just Overwatch in general, right? Like you'll see right here.
Right.
Now, this is a form of strafe aim, right? You'll see that when the Widow first jumped, obviously what we're doing is dodging, right? Because we're moving very erratically. We're trying to avoid incoming damage from that Widow.
Right. That's the priority. So
Now,
dodging is when the movement's a priority. Strafing is when the hitting the shots is the priority. Is that like a
exactly.
beginner way? Okay, I'm trying to find like a good way of defining. Okay, makes sense. Keep going. Sorry.
So, no worries. So you'll see that we are in a situation now where we can do damage, right? The Widow's not peeking us. We can do damage, right? So this is, sorry, I should say the player. This is Mad Badman,
Okay.
who lent me some VODs, and he's a very high level aimer.
Okay.
So basically what you'll see here is just right off the bat, this is what strafe aim is. And you'll see we have the target in our crosshair. How can we move to maximize damage? There are two different main forms, right? And these break down into different other ways, right? But the main ways to strafe aim are anti-mirroring and mirroring.
Okay.
So anti-mirroring is if your target is going left, you will go right.
Okay.
Now what this does is you keep your crosshair you move it very consistently, right? If you're moving and you're essentially circling each other, what happens is you're aiming at a straight line. However, when you're mirroring, you're not aiming at all, right? You'll see in this VOD in particular, right? A lot of mirroring is taking place when you're dueling a projectile character, right? Because they'll have to actually aim.
Right.
Whereas you don't, right? So you can see like right there, just trying to maximize aim off the bat and min-maxing, we're already able to hit our shots, right? We're able to do more damage, right?
Right.
So it's a very minor example there, right? But you'll kind of see throughout the VOD just the ways I want to especially focus on the movement, right?
Yeah.
The way that he's moving is almost always going to be prioritizing doing damage. And you'll see the few times he's moving to dodge, it's very, very obvious. But another thing that I wanted to point out too, in conjunction, with the movement, was how he's positioning himself. Now, he's very obviously not dodging, right? He's very much trying to move so he can hit his shots, which makes sense, right? He's on soldier. He's in a situation where he doesn't need to dodge. But a big thing that he's doing with his positioning this is called geometrical positioning, which is obviously there's game sense positioning, which is I want to be here because this is how my character plays. But that's how I break it down. But then there's geometrical positioning, which is this is how I position to maximize my damage. This is how I position to minimize my hitbox.
Right. Okay.
So you'll see a big thing here is I notice this all the time. You'll see players always playing at the edge of cover, right? The edge of high ground.
Yes.
So one thing that you'll notice is our player here, Mad Badman, rarely does that. He's always playing very far back on this cover, so you can only ever really see the top of his head. And you'll notice that just like even here, right?
Right. There's only a certain, like, he's only just enough to see what he's shooting at, and then anything else is unnecessary hitbox that makes it easier for the enemy team to hit their shots.
Precisely, right? And then in combination with strafe aim and just this basic mirroring and anti-mirroring, you'll see how easy it is to just hit shots, right? It's just super easy. It's very kind of difficult to learn this stuff, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
A lot of time you'll see this from players. It's very second nature, right?
Right.
But I still find it super important to kind of point that out, especially for newer players.
Sure. Well, it's like one of those things that is it's so hard to learn because it's always something to consider. You know, it like never is not. So it's like almost overwhelming to start learning it. But I think somebody like you who's able to coach good habits early and often, I mean, it's going to pay off in the long run. I'm sure.
Yeah, it's super. Once you are able to start learning it, it's very valuable. Another thing here is just you'll see it's raw pure damage, right?
Right.
One of the other things that he's doing to maximize just how much damage he's doing is I'm going to point out right here. Just basic movement, right? You'll always see basic movement just left and right, right? That's how every Overwatch player is going to move. They're going to move left and right. They understand that. The thing is, you'll notice this especially at the higher ranks, and I'm sure you see it all the time with these higher level DPS players, is more diagonal movement, right? And what this does is it just makes it harder to hit you since you're not moving full speed to the right. You're slower and you're moving forward, for example.
It slowers your 80-80 acceleration because there's a forward and backward movement as well.
Exactly.
Okay.
And also, it makes it easier to actually aim because you're moving your crosshair less and less, right?
Okay.
You can see here the way we're angling ourselves, right, is just we're making it so we're able to do the most damage possible while moving at a slight angle, so we barely have to move our mouse.
Okay. That makes sense.
And you will see here, for example, I think it's right here. I remember I watched it this morning and I wrote notes and then I lost them.
No, you're good. You're good.
Because
listen, we're talking about the scuff day today. It happens.
Yeah, it does. But another thing I want to point out is just kind of, I thought it was right there. But another thing I'll point out, sorry, is here, the dodge. He'll start dodging here. And what I want to point out is just how he's moving. Now, a lot of the time people dodge, right? You'll see a spot like this and you'll go, oh, okay, I can dodge by just going. Normally players will be like, oh, I can just left, right here, right?
Right.
The issue is when you're putting yourself in a situation like this where there's a wall right behind you and a wall over here, what are you really doing? Well, you're limiting your movement, right? You can only realistically move between these two walls.
Right.
Now, if you're playing against a higher level player, they're going to recognize that. They're going to just beam you because they know where you can move and where you can't. And the other thing that a lot of players do, especially when they're new, is they will make their strafes very, very. I can't think of the word for it right now, but uniform. Very uniform strafes. Meaning
1 2 1 2 1 2
exactly.
1 2. Right. Okay. Instead of 1 1 2 2 1 2 1 2 2 1, whatever.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes sense.
And the best way I found to kind of get into that habit was create these little semicircles. Try to stay within them, but just make it random. Never make the same strafe.
Okay.
Every single time you move, you should have some form of thought behind it, right? Because that's going to affect how you're playing the game. It affects how you're aiming. It affects whatever you're doing at the time. So you need to have thought behind it. You can't just randomly spam. Why would you do that when you can move between these two semicircles? Move forward here, then maybe backward here, forward here, and et cetera, right?
Oh. Now, wait. Now, I have a question for you. So you're saying you're giving yourself, instead of 2 options of movement, you're giving yourself 4 options with forward, back, backward, left, or forward, left, backward, left, forward, right, backward, right. Is that correct?
Well, you can move in any sort of direction, right?
Okay.
Because sorry, that's just an example, right? I should explain myself more clear there.
Okay.
Well, let's just say, for example, there's a fire in the air, right?
Yeah.
Well, why would we move to the left or right? Or I did that backwards.
Yeah.
Why would we do that when we can move forward and backwards? That fire is still going to have to aim at us, but we're not going to have to aim, really. She's essentially staying in the same spot. Because when we move forward, we just have to adjust our crosshairs as such, and when we move backward, we just adjust our crosshairs.
It's a bigger adjustment for her crosshair than it is for us.
Exactly.
Got it.
And that's kind of the goal. We always want to make it so that they're moving their crosshair, more than we're moving ours.
Okay.
Now,
that's a great soundbite right there. That's a great soundbite. That makes total sense.
Now, it's kind of confusing because I mentioned strafe aim earlier, so people would think like, oh, well, why don't I just always do that, right?
Right.
Well, because you're just going to, for example, if it's a situation where you aren't at an advantage, right, you're just going to lose it, right? If you're in a situation where you can mirror, but you're lower HP than your opponent, why would you do it? Why wouldn't you work on dodging, right?
Right.
And then you can see here, the dodge is very, very, we don't need to strafe him at all because we're in visor.
Right.
So the dodge is very, very not uniform, very, very ununiform. I forget the word.
Fred, now you got me. Random, unorthodox.
Random, yeah.
There's a word in there somewhere. We'll dig it out eventually.
Yeah, we'll find it. But the way he's dodging is so unpredictable that you just can't really hit it, right? It's so hard, even though you're in that limited space. Also, this is another thing that I want to touch on because it goes hand in hand when movement, aim, and that's positioning, right? So when you're kind of putting yourself in a situation like this, obviously this isn't the best spot to be game sense wise, right?
Right.
However, if we want to get the most out of this position, how can we do that? Well, when we're over here, what we're doing is we're putting our opponent, say we're over here, for example, right? We'll go back a split second to when we were slightly to the right.
Okay. Right.
We'll just say that we stay here and this sojourn comes over here. Okay. Right? Well, that sojourn easily comes back into cover.
Right.
So what we can do is we slightly move to the left, and then that sojourn can do nothing at all.
Right. Wait. Can I say this? I'm so excited because I spotted this. So somebody might say, well, then aren't you further from cover? Well, no, because your cover isn't a wall; it's the floor. And theoretically, you're always, if you can move further left to force that cover into that sojourn to be out of cover, and backwards a little bit to where you hide your hitbox, which is exactly what they do here. So that actually you're just as close to cover as you were on the right, but you remove that sojourn's cover.
Exactly. Not only that, we can move slightly backwards so that, again, like you said, we're minimizing our hitbox, right? And so
Right.
they can just see our head. However, this is a situation where we now have the advantage because we're showing so much less, and
Yes.
therefore we can strafe aim.
Right there. There's the cover.
Yep. And then there are times
Okay.
too where you're just standing still, right? And that's a big thing that I see with newer players is they're either standing still or they never stand still at all, right?
Right.
And I'm sure you can kind of agree that you see that here or there too, right? But
Yeah.
the thing is, you always want a mix because, like, that's a situation where we just don't need to move. The Sojourn doesn't have rail; she's not going to get rail. We can just stand still. Right? It's very, very interesting how you can kind of work on your mechanics like this.
Or for example, like right there, like there's a Sigma shield, so I noticed that he slowed down his movement for a second because he has a Sigma shield, so no reason 80-80 strafing.
Right here, he has a Sigma shield, and this Genji, not only is this Genji completely out of cover, if that Genji wants to go forward, he's limiting his movement. He will only be able to move here. So why would you move out of this position, right?
Yeah, there's a brief pause there. Okay.
The reason I asked this player for pods is they're very good at identifying that type of stuff, right?
All right.
And you'll see here, it's another example of being able to make those little strafes and understanding the way the target's moving and forcing them to be out of cover and forcing yourself into this cover.
Right.
It sounds very tedious, and it's a very odd way of saying it, I understand, but it's very kind of... It's hard to describe, right? I'm having a hard time finding the words for it.
I think you're doing a fine job, and I think the thing too is as well as it said, like, it may be difficult to describe, but there are ways to package it in something that's processable, like we talked about utilizing just the simple tip that you give me with high ground, which is like when you're on high ground, don't be on the edge, be a couple feet back where you only limit your... I mean, that's something very actionable, very practicable right there immediately.
Exactly.
Being unpredictable with your strafing, trying not to strafe all the time for no reason, knowing the difference between when I should be strafing, when I should be dodging, right? Maybe swinging wide on high ground so that you deny enemy cover. I mean, those are all like, you can't do all of them at the same time, just like any Overwatch concept, but you could absolutely like take those out in that one individual little tidbit and go apply that for several days, practice and internalize that. Heck, I remember when I was trying to break my jumping habit with Zenyatta, which is I guess a separate movement issue. I would just grind it and try hard FFA as part of my warm up routine. And so these things, I mean, would you think that these things are also practicable as part of a warm up routine as a way to like
100%.
internalize them? Okay, I mean, there you go. I mean, this is great. Okay, keep going. Sorry.
So I'm a bit of a Kovacs player, right? I have
Right.
How many hours do I have? I think in total I have nearly 3,000 hours in aim training.
Gosh, okay.
Yeah, I get that a lot. So one thing that I'll do a lot in aim training is you'll see people just playing these big scenarios with big dots, standing still. What you can do is, in a lot of scenarios, you're able to move around. So you can practice this strafing. You can work on implementing it.
Now here's a question for you. Does Kovacs have movement conservation, or can you turn it off like to make it more feel Overwatchy?
There are scenarios, I make a bunch of them, for example, that have Overwatch movement.
See, I would love for you to like. That's where the aim coach comes in. You need to guys go get a session with this guy, Psev, because you can like you'll make the Kovacs worth it. Because I get people coming to my sessions all the time. They want to play Kovacs. I'm like, no. If you're gonna play Kovacs, you only play Kovacs if Psev lets you play Kovacs. That's the rule for me.
I actually don't encourage it that much. I don't think it's that useful past a certain level.
Okay. Why is that?
So I think that once you kind of get that fundamental level down, where you're able to understand how to move your mouse to properly aim, which that's a whole rant I could go on. It's very... your time in Kovacs will get less and less useful the more and like the better you are.
Okay.
And it's weird to think about because when I was starting out, I would spend no time at all in Kovacs and I wasn't improving. And then I started spending like 3 hours a day at one point, which, yeah, I know is a lot. But then I was improving a lot, and then it slowly dwindled down again and again. Now, that's because I started getting these fundamentals down, right? This fundamental level of strafe aim, this fundamental level of just tracking, once you're past that in Kovacs, you really don't need it. You can just play tryhard FFA for the same improvement.
Interesting. And do you recommend tryhard FFA? Are there any codes that you've found? I don't know how much experience you have with the workshop, but are there any codes that have stood out to you? Because I'm sure Chad is like dying to know.
You know, JBW 5K. is probably the best code.
All right. Look at me. I'm breaking out the pen. JBW5K. I might have to at the end of the session. I might have to pull it up. I want to see it.
Okay.
Okay. What about it makes it good?
So that one is a Havana map with the randomized bot movement, and it's very good because you're able to just move around, just shoot however you want to.
Okay.
It's not very easy to
edit.
edit.
Code, but I think that was that the ONS code? I feel like ONS is there's some.
Oh wait, you know what? I'm silly because I have a lot more codes that I can just grab you really quick.
Please.
In a server.
Okay.
Full of people who do this stuff all the time.
Brilliant. Look at this.
Look
at all this free content. This is just great. You've ever heard of, do you know much about ZHTD8 or Vaxta?
Vaxta I like, but it's not my favorite.
Okay. Why is it not your favorite?
I don't know. Honestly, it's just a preference thing. I can't give you a real reason.
Okay.
It's really just a preference thing. I just prefer BW5K.
One thing I don't like about Vaxta is the infinite cooldowns annoys me. At least for like Tracer, like it's impossible to practice Tracer in there because you have infinite blinks. So it's just bad practice, you know?
One thing I will bring up now is kind of if you want to be practicing this strafe aim and dodge, you can be practicing your strafe aim very easily in these codes, but it's super difficult to practice dodge. And the reason is dodge is inherently just a mess because what one person can aim at easily, another person might not be able to aim at all.
So there's a little bit of RNG involved.
Exactly. Now, the best ways I found you can dodge someone is a few things you can work on. Now, in those codes I sent you, there is something called LG Vamp, and that's super useful.
Okay.
Because what happens is you are regenerating health for doing damage, and you're trying to dodge your opponent.
Oh, that's a cool little game. It keeps it fresh.
Yeah. It's based off Quake, if you ever played.
I'm aware of it. But real quick before we start talking about dodging here, like we know the difference between strafing and dodging. Strafing, you're playing for your shots. Dodging, you're playing more to live. Doesn't necessarily mean you're not taking shots, but there's a hierarchy there. I guess in terms of the action, we talked about strafing being more of the left, right, forward, left, backwards, right. Something these minor adjustments back and forth, maybe depending on the situation. What constitutes a dodge, I guess, and I think you're about to get into that, but like what constitutes a dodge as opposed to a strafe? If
I'm looking at you, let me draw this because I am walking around my room with my wireless headset, and it's so much easier if I just draw it.
Sure.
So we are two targets looking at each other, you and me. We are head on.
Yes.
You have the advantage, be it health, be it damage, be it whatever.
Right.
I am not going to strafe aim you because if I do, you will beam me, right? So what I'm going to do is try to avoid your damage. Now, fundamentally, dodge is just dodge. Okay, so dodge just in general refers to avoiding damage, right?
Right.
That can be through jumping, which probably is a whole. Okay, jumping's a whole tangent because I'll just mention this right now because you mentioned jumping earlier, and I was going to get into it then, but I'm like probably not the best time.
Sure.
I'd like to split the jump into two parts.
Okay.
The unpredictable part and the predictable part.
That's a great way of putting it. I never thought about that.
Yes, because you are forced to react to this part, right? You see the target jump and you're like, oh, they are up in the air now. I need to adjust. But what goes up must come down, right?
Okay. Can I guess? Okay. This excites me so much because this, you know what this is I'm learning as well. So I love this. Okay. Theoretically, a hero like Hanzo with a slow rate of fire, jumping versus a Hanzo, if you're trying to dodge, might actually be beneficial if you jump during the release or right at the release of his bullet. Because the predictable part would be during his animation of where he's like charging it up. Does that make any sense? Like you could theoretically time your jump so that it throws off his aim, and then the predictable part is when you're safe because he's not shooting anyway? Or am I misapplying?
Exactly. You're right.
Okay.
If you can do it in that situation, I usually don't tell people to go out and try that because I've gotten
pretty hard.
I've tried it in my own head. I'm like, oh, this is so smart. That Zen's gonna volley, and then I'll jump and I'll get destroyed, and I'll be like, oh, I'm terrible.
Right.
Usually it's usually the way I like to talk about jumping is if you're jumping into cover, for example, it's great because the unpredictable part is there, right? Or you can make this the unpredictable part by jumping out of cover.
Jumping into cover so that you're jumping as you're in the air, the top half, then you're behind a wall, and then as you slowly float down to earth, it doesn't matter, you're already behind cover. Okay, that's cool. Keep going, sorry.
Or jump out of cover, right? And you can make this part the unpredictable part.
Because they're not expecting you to jump. They're just expecting you to just walk around
Exactly.
the corner.
And someone with good crosshair placement, like our subject here, is going to place their crosshair here and not expect you to come from the height, right?
Right. Okay.
So
Okay.
that tangent's over, right? Let's get back to the dodge.
Okay.
Now, if we are looking head on, I'm going to want to dodge here. What
Yes.
can I do? So what I can do is super easy. I can simply shift and try to make it so you have to aim at me. Now, that sounds very basic, right? And that
Yes.
sounds, well, obviously, right?
Yes.
You are aiming at me in this direction. What happens if I shift over here and I keep it this way? What happens if I make it so that you have to play on, let me like move physically so I know how I'm saying this right now.
Sure.
So let me have your little mouse pad, right?
Okay.
You have your mouse.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't I make you play on one side of it? In this situation, why don't I just force you to play on this side of your mouse pad only? Right? Why don't I move over here and force it so that you're only playing on a certain part, an awkward angle, right?
Right.
Why don't I make it so that you're forced to actually aim at me and look at me, right? No matter how you move, I'm going to stay so that I'm on this part of your mouse pad.
So
I'm
you're
taking
always
these
moving
angles.
to his or her left for the most.
As an example, yes.
As an example. So what you might do, what that might be, is like a large strafe to your right, short strafe back, large strafe short, short, large short, but the majority is still moving that direction, so that they end up they run out of mouse pad pretty quickly.
Exactly. And that gets into a concept that is my favorite thing to ramble about ever. So thank you for bringing this up.
You're welcome.
Movement with bias.
Okay.
Now, what that means is we are favoring a direction. Now,
oh my
in
gosh,
dodging,
I didn't even think about that.
Exactly. In dodging, we're always going to want to move both directions, right? And we're going to want to throw on forward and backwards, no matter what. That's just how dodge works.
Yes.
But that doesn't mean we can't favor a direction. We can't force you. That doesn't mean we can't force you to look over here and use that awkward angle of your mouse pad. That doesn't mean we can't make it so that we're favoring the direction, so that we are aiming on the center of our pad or the end of our pad we're more comfortable with, which, by the way, is our left side.
Right.
So, just as a general tip, if possible, try to get someone on your so you're aiming on the left side of your pad.
Why is that? Are people generally worse pulling the mouse towards them or running into the keyboard, or is there a specific
Thank you for
reason?
using the word pull. That is my favorite word in aiming. So this was explained to me by a coach or a player who's very, very good, called Siba. And they were like, "Oh yeah, no, I'm pushing and pulling my mouse." And I'm like, "That's stupid." And I thought about that for like more than a second. I'm like, "That's genius." Because what happens is you are pulling your mouse to the left, right? You're pulling it with your arm.
Yes.
And you're pushing it away from your body.
Yes.
But when you're pulling it, you're playing on the area that's most comfortable. You're playing in like
it's closer
how do I
to your
kind of
body.
Exactly. It's closer to your body and it's closer to your chest, so you have the extra bit of stability to actually aim with. So, long story short, move with a bias because you can force someone to play at an awkward angle on their mouse pad, and also because you're actually dodging their shots and forcing them to aim at an angle.
Yeah, unless they're left-handed, wouldn't pulling, like strafing to your right, their left, make it easier for them to aim with pull?
Yes. However, how many left-handed players do you know? How many left-handed players do you know that have good aim as well?
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying though, because if let me if I'm right-handed and I'm strafing to their right, they're going to have to move their mouse to their left to follow my movement to their left and my right, right? So isn't that making it easier for me as a right-handed player to follow them because I get to pull my arm in tighter?
Yes. It should be. I think I see what you're saying.
But I guess it would be like, wouldn't it be better to strafe the opposite direction to make them push the mouse?
Yes, it would be. I was using left earlier as an example. It's ideal that you want them playing.
I see. You're just drawing the mouse pad, but you didn't. It was a left-hand person in your example. Okay. I just to make sure that was clear. Okay, so that makes sense to me. I had another question. Shoot. I think that's mostly it. Sorry, continue.
Of course. But yeah, essentially, those kind of 1v1 codes are amazing practice for that because I can pull up VODs. I have hours of VODs of just sim 1v1s on my YouTube channel.
So you're saying left strafe favoring bias is, for most players, going to be better considering most players are right-handed?
Yes, but I don't like to think about it like that. I usually don't stay right. I don't recommend a side or whatever because players will find what they're comfortable with.
It might also depend on the map. Like, when you want to strafe towards cover, that might depend on the left or the right, right? Okay, that makes sense.
Exactly. That's why strafing with bias is also important.
I'm digging way too deep.
No. This is perfect because this is exactly the type of stuff that I ramble about, right?
Right.
Because why would you strafe with bias over here when there's cover over here and your team's going to be over here?
Right. That makes sense. Right. Okay. And I guess a lot of it depends on the amplitude of the strafe as well, right? Like you said, you don't have to strafe each sides equally, but you could do left small strafe, right small strafe, left big strafe, left small strafe, left big strafe, right small strafe, stuff like that.
Throwing in these longer strafes is super beneficial a lot of the time, especially in these types of 1v1 situations, because why would you long strafe there, right?
Right.
If you ever play like TX with someone, which is also good mechanics practice, and they just walk into a wall, for example, and sometimes you're unable to hit it, that's because we just don't expect it to happen, right?
Right.
The unpredictability is so important in dodge.
All right. It's so weird that you build us find a way to get better at being unpredictable. That seems like that sounds like an oxymoron, you know? Like
it's weird because there's a whole community for like this LG dueling, right?
Yeah.
And I talked to all sorts of people because my whole thing for a while was I want to be the smartest player, and I was just like, why do you this? Why do you do that? And half the time people were like, oh, I have no idea. And the other half people were like, this is the exact reason why.
Right.
Like I'm telling you now.
Right.
So it's super interesting, basically. And you'll see in a situation like this, right? It's obviously fine where you're not necessarily dropping a pipe because that happens, right? But playing the edge of height there to get that extra sight line is fine because there's nothing pressuring you.
Right, exactly. Okay.
Now, this was also pretty good if I recall. Yeah. This is just a classic example of strafing, right?
That is unreal.
This guy is probably the second, or in terms of aim training, was the best for a long time. This guy is very, very good.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and that's just what strafing can do for you, right?
And you can
obviously
see,
this guy's
you can see like the predictable aspect of the Genji jump there is like almost what killed him.
Exactly, right? And you'll see it's an arc almost, right?
Yeah.
And that kind of the dash locks us into this arc, and then after that, he has a double jump. He's probably going to do it at the end of this dash, right? So he's going to do that, and he's going to go behind cover because that's all he's going to do. Right. We've just predicted his pathing from this one animation, right?
Yeah, and that second half, the jump almost kills him because he just like almost all the damage is right in that second half of the jump. Like we miss every shot, and then bang! It's like that second half we lock, and it's over. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's so weird the little things that go into this. This is one of my favorite parts of this because I get to just describe how insane this player is because of this. Just that.
Gosh.
And we can dissect that.
Please.
And ramble about it because look where we're positioned, right? Our SIG is over here.
Yeah.
So they're pressuring our SIG. They're throwing jabs at him, right? They're doing whatever they can.
I know. Can I guess? Can I guess?
Yes.
I'm not gonna steal your thunder this one time. I'm getting the student excitement over here. So keep going. Sorry.
No worries. So our SIG's forced to move. They think that they can move for free now. We're positioned over here, right? We're positioning so that when this Sojourn tries to walk, she's now against a wall. She can no longer strafe over here. If she wants to strafe over here, she's in the open. She cannot go backwards because there is no cover to the right, like over here, right? If she goes forward, she's going to go over here, which we can easily walk over here and anti-mirror. So we can keep her in our LOS.
Right. So you're saying
because of that,
my angle philosophy was right all along.
Yes, it was. Right? Yeah, exactly. Because just easily, we're able to just melt. There's nowhere for them to run because of our positioning there. Right? And you'll see we're still abusing. Oh, this is amazing.
The dodge there.
The dodge there, right? It's a small thing, but you'll kind of see here that we're just making it so that if we're in a situation where we're just going to get beamed because someone's shooting at it, we're at least hard to hit, right?
Yeah. And as soon as we can deflect, we go into strafe mode because we know that now we have a window to damage. Now here's a question for you: the angles, does it also I look at that Sojourn shot as well, and I'm also wondering if the Sojourn was very focused on strafing from forward, and that's why the angle here mattered so much, is because her movement is focused on moving evasively in one dimension, not in three. And she can't move in 3 dimensions with the wall behind her. So then when the soldier shoots her, the soldier ends up just shooting in a straight line almost.
Exactly. Because our positioning is so much better. Oh, that you have caught on. Oh, this is amazing.
I love
Because
angles.
let's let's dissect it even further. Let's say someone over here is looking over here. Well, what
Hmm.
happens if we're shooting them from over here? Well, they're gonna want to look at us, right?
Right.
They're gonna So what happens is they look at us, but what does that mean? Well, they can't move back anymore. They can't
Right.
move over here anymore.
Right.
And they can only really move over here, over here, over here, or over there.
Right.
Right? So we've cut off all these angles of movement simply by our positioning.
I notice this a lot, especially with projectile heroes. You notice this, I mean, even as a projectile specialist myself with Zenyatta and Ana and so on, is by doing this, like when you cross out those blue arrows right there, and I'm thinking projectile, I know where that target's going to go in the next half second. They're going to go
Yeah.
to my left. They're going to go to my left. So I'm not even aiming at the target as an Ana or Zen. I'm aiming towards the cover that I know they're going to be moving towards.
Exactly. And we've done this with our positioning, right? And we
Right.
don't even have to aim. And we're already making it so that we're having an easy time to aim, right?
Right.
It's dissecting these little things is how we can become these top players. Just when we find out the reasoning for why people do things like this, it's the same thing as regular VOD, right?
Right. Right. Right.
It's super interesting. Every little thing in this VOD, it's 4 minutes and we've spent half an hour.
Right, right,
Right?
and I think it's also unfair to even say that this is micro. I think that like it's obviously micro by the definition of it, but how much of it bleeds into making the macro decisions with how we just position as a soldier, I think is really important. Like why angles matter, why covers matter, how you can leverage cover better. This isn't just something that's going to help you win 1v1s. It might impact
Exactly.
how you play the game as a whole.
This was the example that I wrote down, and I'm like, make sure you talk about this. I have it written on a
I'm
sticky
ready.
note on my monitor.
I'm ready.
Now, this is Strafing, and this is why Strafing is important. We're just doing what the Skenshi's doing, right? We force deflect, he's out. Now, why is it so valuable that we've mirrored here instead of anti-mirrored the Skenji, right? Now, the difference between the two is mirroring is typically, if we are going to win that 100% of the time, we are going to mirror, right? That's typically how it works. Or, if we have better aim than our opponent, we are going to anti-mirror because we know that we'll be able to keep our mouse straighter than them and keep our crosshair in a straight line.
Now,
Why are
here's a
we
question
mirroring
for
here?
you. Here's a question for you. How do you make these reads this fast? Like, how do I read the Genji's going left, so I go left, and Genji's going right, then I go right, or vice versa for anti-mirror? How do you get that good at that? Like, is that just something you just practice to be able to just instantly do in the moment? You know what I'm saying? Because I understand that theory, but it's like, man, that has to be so hard to practice.
You are so gifted with the words you're using. Thank you so much for using the word read. That leads into target reading. Target reading is the bane of my existence. What that means is you are determining the speed a target is going, and you are determining the direction a target is going.
Okay.
We see this Genji. Let's see the animation. We know the animation. He's going this way at that speed.
We go here.
That's it. It's an unconscious thing that it gets better with time.
Okay.
Right?
Okay. And how do you train the unconscious things? By consciously practicing them, correct?
By consciously practicing it. However, one thing that happens a lot of the time with players is they're on these super high sensitivities and they're unable to track, right?
Right.
Or they're unable to just do whatever. How are you going to read the direction and speed a target's going when our crosshair is going like this 24/7?
True. True.
If you watch a player like Cookie, for example, in European contenders,
German, right?
they keep their pardon, German?
I think he's German. Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead. Yeah.
What he does, for example, is he is so smooth with this crosshair, moving from point A to point B. Targets are moving more smooth because of that. It's that easy to read targets. Make it easier for yourself, right? It also, like you mentioned, it is subconscious and it just comes with time, really.
Okay.
Like
Makes
that's
sense.
just how it works. I've spent 3,000 hours in tennis, and
Yeah.
a lot of that's on movement. That's why I can do
Right.
this too, for example, right?
Right.
Yeah, like, but one of the things I want to bring up here is we're in a situation where yes, we'd win if we mirrored this because we have a mercy pocket, right? However, why are we specifically mirroring this Genji instead of anti-mirroring? Well, we don't have a lot of space to move over to our right, so that's one reason. However, the biggest reason, he's projectile. What does that mean? He can't keep his crosshair still. We're moving to the left. We can keep our crosshair still, but just keeping it on him, right? Just up and down. That's all we have to adjust for. But we just track him with our movement, really. He's still going to have to aim because he's going to have to aim ahead of us rather than on us, right?
Right. Right.
So we're making it so it's harder for him to aim, right?
Right.
Just he wasn't able to hit a shot with him. And then even there, anti-mirroring there so we can keep our positioning on the Ana, right? She probably would have died regardless there, but
moving
also
to the left so she couldn't get to the corner in time to save her life.
exactly.
Right. Okay.
And all these little things adding up is just so big. Another thing that is very hard to kind of pinpoint here, but I'm going to say it anyways because
Huh.
I love rambling about this, is look how he's playing this corner. Now, what happens if we're hugging this wall? Well, we can't move over here if need be, right? Obviously, we're not going to have to.
Right.
What happens when we want to peek? Well, our whole hitbox is going to be out, right?
Right.
What happens when we're playing further back? We can peek an inch little by little out and
Right.
uncover. This is called slicing the pie. It's a big thing in TAC FPS, and we're uncovering more and more of the map as we slowly peek out from a further angle. We control what we see instead of having the wall control it because we're full peeking, right? Does that kind of
Right.
make sense?
Yes, it does. Let me ask you a question though. Is there ever a world where that becomes a high risk, high reward kind of a playstyle? So you're further from the wall here, so that means that you control how far that you can peek, and yet still have the cover of being able to LOS the Ramatra in front of you by moving to the left, right? Instead of running into a wall and or having to peek the Ramatra and being slower to peek wide, right? My question for you is though, what if in a different scenario, you see where the vehicle is, the car, right? There's somebody that peeks
Yes.
out of an off angle there. You're caught with your pants down in your current position, but theoretically, if you're closer to the corner, now not this particular corner, this corner's long, right? But like,
Yeah.
let's say there was a doorway, for example. Would it be a safer play for you to be positioned on the corner there because the off angle you'd still be able to provide or reach cover within a reasonable period of time because you're playing that corner here? You kind of see what I'm saying? It's
Exactly
like high
what you're
risk, high
saying.
reward versus low risk, low reward with the corners that you choose.
That's where map knowledge comes in, right?
Right.
Because look at how we're playing this as well, right? If someone decides to peek from this off angle in particular, now I know you're saying a bit of a steeper off angle.
Yeah,
I
but
agree with you
sure,
completely, right?
sure, okay.
But for example, we know that this off angle's here. So if we want to peek someone, look at the distance we have here as well. We're able to
Right.
keep that
Totally
angle
fine.
on them if we want to, right?
Right.
However, I agree with you. It is very high risk, high reward, but that's where kind of map knowledge and just that general positioning knowledge comes in.
Right. That makes sense. That makes total sense. Okay. And obviously, when you're on high ground, then it's irrelevant because the cover theoretically is always available at our feet.
Exactly. Now, it's still important to play these kind of what if we can have that, especially versus flyers, for example. It's very important to have that bit of natural cover on high ground.
Yeah.
But we saw this entire game. Our player, our Mad Bad Man, barely did that. All he did was just abuse the high ground for cover, and it worked. Now, it's situational, right? But it's very valuable, I feel, to get a good feel for that high ground and just understand how to kind of play it.
Right. That makes total sense.
But yeah, this is 4 minutes, and we've spent a good amount of time on it.
Sure.
If you'd like, by the way, I have more VODs if we want to, but I think we've covered a lot here.
Well,
honestly.
I guess I have. I think maybe the most important thing, at least for me and my viewers, would be like this is really fascinating and interesting, and we have talked a little bit about this already, but translating it, right? We've talked about you've shared some codes with me, which I'm definitely going to pull up in a second and look at, but also where do we apply this in tryhard FFA? Do we just play more and get better at it? I guess we talked about a lot of these actionable bits here. How would you go about, would you just treat it like any other improvement? Like thinking about my ult usage, I think about where I position on the high ground. I think about the corners that I'm holding. How do you actually translate all this?
One of the reasons I actually chose this guy was because I knew you would make that point.
Huh.
This guy has been playing, if you check his YouTube channel at least, he's been uploading montages for, I think, 7 years. He has a lot of experience. Overwatch, he spent 2 months in it, I think, in his GM.
Yep.
Just because of that mechanic stuff, right?
Yep.
It comes with time. And a lot of it is going to be spending and looking at your VODs, being like, how could I position better? How could I have used this cover to my advantage more?
Right.
Right. For example, Aimer 7 has a great guide on it if you want to read that, but it's a very hefty read.
Yeah, I'm aware of it.
Yeah, I've read that a few times, I think. And
goodness gracious.
Just because interest. Yeah. But a lot of this, especially the aim related stuff like movement, that's going to come in. Well, all of it's aim related, but I more mean like directly like movement
within
and
the game.
Your mouse control. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's going to come from just practicing in Tryhard FFA, right? Practicing that mirroring, anti-mirroring, practicing your dodge, especially. A big thing in working on that is soldier 1v1s I found, or tracer 1v1s. Both those are great for practicing dodge. But a lot of the positioning stuff is going to just come with time and understanding and just spending this time like we're doing now, looking at these VODs, being like, why are they doing this? Why am I doing this?
Right. That makes sense. I'm going to pull up these codes here, and I want to get your thoughts on it. So I'm going to see if I can get Overwatch working here.
I haven't played a lot of those, actually, but I know a good few of them are very good.
We'll do live commentary from you. Which one is
Sounds
good?
good.
This is no good. Oh, I like this one. Okay. Oh yeah, I see. I'm not so sure about this one. And I'm not going to even try and aim because aim is not my strong point nowadays. I don't play enough. As you said, the number one thing, I don't check that box, sadly. So let me get this thing pulled up here.
All of these are from a player called Zeke, who's like big in the aim training community.
Okay, makes sense.
Or he was years ago.
Got it.
Long
okay,
story.
so let me. Okay, I won't ask. Let's
Yeah, he just stopped playing. Nothing big.
Fair enough. Okay, let's wait a second here. I cannot. The workshop code thing is not there. Wait. I think I got it. I think it's different.
Here, I'll pull up your stream as well because that way I'll actually be able to see. And that's smart.
I'm not. I mean, that would be intelligent. Okay, I'm not seeing it here. It used to be a chat. Did they change it? They might have changed it because I'm not seeing the ability to. You remember how you used to be able to import code here? Save code, whatever. Save presets there. But I know they did some work on the workshop. But maybe it's gone.
Huh.
Maybe there's a bug or something. I'm not crazy, am I? It's to be
no,
here.
I'm seeing that too.
They might have changed the UI, and I'm too stupid to find out about it. No.
I wish that I saved these codes because I only have one of those saved. Okay. And that's the 1v1 code with Sim.
That's unfortunate. That's whatever. The JBW5K. Either way, it's all going to be about practicing these as part of your warm-up routine. Heck, even some of the positional fundamentals with like high ground and dodging versus strafing, I think that probably is very actionable even in ranked games, right? They happen with enough frequency to be considered. Okay.
And honestly, I'm a flex support player, as you know.
Right.
One of the biggest things that I found that's useful is playing Soldier and playing Tracer. Tracer has improved my dodge a lot, and playing Soldier has improved my strafing a lot.
Because it's isolating those skill sets, kind of.
Exactly. You'll see, funnily enough, there's a bunch of aim training players like who play aim training and aim trainers as their main game. They play Overwatch as their secondary game because it is so good for that. It's really cool.
Interesting. Is that because of the lack of movement conservation and the verticality that's not in other aim trainers?
Oh, you are a genius. Exactly.
Well, I'm aware of that at least. Okay, makes sense. It's kind of funny because it's like Overwatch is the very non-quintessential first-person shooter with the mobile qualities, but it is such a hard thing to aim with. So
it is. I think it was Aimer7 who said this. I agree with it 100%. Overwatch is the hardest game to aim in, but aim has the least amount of impact.
Yeah, that's actually really. I would agree with that from what I know anyway. But yeah, okay. Psev, I want to thank you so much for your time. Let me try to see if I can get these codes. If I can't get them pulled up one last time, then I'm gonna have to GG's it. But what got you interested in aim coaching and aim training? Like, what got you started down this road? Because this has been fascinating.
Well, thank you. I started aim training actually. It's kind of a funny story. Last November, was it last November? Or no, 2021 November. I was hit by a car on my left side. Yeah, and I was a low grandmaster player, and I was like, I can't play the game anymore. My life is ruined. This is the only game I know. I'll play aim traders because this will make me very good. And I had another player who used to be a pretty big name in the aim training community. Who's a Masters Overwatch player, and he's like, your aim sucks. So I messaged him, and I'm like, hey, I know you said my aim sucks. How can I get it better? And I started just on that journey from there.
Fair enough. That's awesome. Mate. I mean, not awesome that you were put in that situation, but hey, make lemonade,
the best of it.
Make lemonade out of lemons, I guess. Yeah. Well, Psev, please plug your stuff. I want to know all about your coaching. I got your Twitter here on your Discord link, but how will be the best way to get coaching from you?
The best way is to probably join my Discord server, which I think it's posted on Twitter. If not, would you mind if I actually send you an invite?
Yeah, please do. Yeah.
Here is an invite. I'm hosting weekly tournaments in Kovacs actually.
Post that here.
Where you can play and win money.
I just threw it in in the Twitch chat. So
awesome.
Check that one out. Okay, keep going. Sorry.
You can also just find me on Twitter or Discord, just Psev9999 or Psev. And then my Metafy is just Psev.
Okay, let me just keep throwing in I'm going to throw in everything here. Let's see here.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem, man. I mean, I thank you so much for coming on. Like I said, I was really excited about this one because I like to bring in collaborations really regardless of whether they're going to know something that I don't know. I just enjoy working with people, and I think it's good to have fun names on the list. However, I think yours is definitely one of the collaborations where I was like, it was selfish. I'm like, I don't know anything about this. I'm going to be learning as much as everybody else about it. So I'm not sitting here going like, yeah, nothing to do. This is kind of talking to preach to the choir. I'm sitting here trying to like actively learn about like, how do I need to be doing this better on my own, or how can I incorporate this in my sessions? And so I really, really appreciate this, mate.
Yes.
Thank you so much for your time. I'm sure we'll have a lot of better aimers as a result. And like I said, I really appreciate you getting this set up, mate.
Thank you very much for your time.
Cheers, Seth. Have a good one. Bye.
You too. Bye-bye.
That was Sev. Hey, Boogie. We're doing okay. I'm having issues with stream still, so I don't know. We'll make it through. But yeah, big shout out to Sev, y'all. That was Sev, the aim training extraordinaire. It's really funny how like some things that you kind of take for granted when it comes to movement mechanics and just generally playing the game can actually be boiled down to things that like, man, I really said I should be doing that better. I didn't even think about that. That was actually really, really awesome. So check out Sev's Discord, check out Sev's Twitter, links to his coaching on that stuff as well. And I mean, you guys heard, very personable guy, very good coach, excellent communicator. So almost as good as me. That was awesome. So, okay. Yeah, let's, here's the deal, chat. So I have literally zero confidence whatsoever and my internet and what's going on. Like, I'm still having issues going on right now. I still can't get the workshop codes to pull up. It shows, but there's no way to like import a code now at all. I have to write a new workshop code every single time I go in. So yeah, appreciate it, Seth. Thanks so much, mate. So what I want to do is I want to look at the patch notes. I want to find out. I honestly gave it a skim yesterday, but I didn't really look that super in depth in detail. So I'm gonna get the patch notes pulled up and we're gonna talk about them, because I'm aware of some of the mercy changes. I mean, you'd have to be living under a very large rock to not be aware of some of the mercy changes, but we're going to actually take a look. We're going to talk about what my thoughts are. Okay, there are the patch notes. Okay. So let's talk about this. So unfortunately, I don't think I could even check Twitch chat. I'm not even joking. It's not working. So I don't think I'm going to be able to check Twitch chat. Tragically, maybe I will. It's just not working. Yeah, so no Twitch chat. Tragic. So all your funny, sweet, juicy reacts, I'm going to have to sit back here like an old man and tap back and forth. So I don't know what's going on, mates. This is it's annoying to say the least, but it is what it is. Okay, let's do this. So let's take a look at these patch notes here. Drop into season 3. A nice new map. Ultimate Valentine. I saw a couple of things about that. That looks pretty funny. The Mythic Kiriko skin's pretty cool. I mean, Kiriko's kind of, but it's a support. I guess we need to support to balance out the DPS and tank ones. Improve subtitle options. I want to focus mostly on the hero stuff here. Challenge stuff I assume is good. The big one is some of the quality of life stuff. So like Mr. Hero's now limit system out 3 rolls. That's really cool. Obviously the ones where it's like if you are a tank in arcade, you don't have full HP. All that stuff is cool. More workshop stuff is cool. I wasn't a big user of the workshop, but I was a big benefactor or benefitter of the workshop, so that's cool. Hero updates. Maximum ult charge retained when something heroes reduced from 30 to 25%. I mean, yeah, this is fine, I guess. I don't really know where I fall on the fence. I see the problems with it, though, where it's too easy to counter swap. But I never felt like the 30%, the ult charge alone was the reason why it was such a big deal. In other words, if I'm playing, Winston, and they go, I do think the ult charge swap mattered, but I don't think it was the biggest thing. Like I would rather give up ult charge and then just go Orisa and then just laugh at you trying to play anything versus that. I think it's more of a hero design issue than it is a ult charge issue. I think this will help, I guess, a really little bit, tiny bit. But I don't think that's the primary reason why the rock, paper, scissors tank meta was an issue, if that makes any sense. That's my take anyway. I think this is fine, but it's... I feel like it's getting scapegoated. I don't have a problem with it. I just feel like it's getting scapegoated when it's a contributor, but it's not even the main reason why it's an issue. The tank passive, We already talked about that. I was aware of that. Okay, let's see what we got here. Diva, Mecha base health, and roll Q. Okay, don't care about that, so I'll just roll Q. Silly. Mecha base health. Oh, okay, remains the same. I misread that. These are all the base health changes. Base health of Junker Queen is increased by 25 HP. Okay, sure, that's fine. She's a little bit tankier. Works for me. I mean, I think that's probably fine. I mean, I'd hate to buff Shout again as part of her survivability, because that ability has the tendency to be broken, because it's the whole AoE stuff is always really hard to balance. So I'm glad that they just buffed her HP rather than buff Shout again. Base health remains the same. Fall off of her damage reduced. I hate when they do this, man. Like, I hate when they do these changes and then immediately revert them. It's like, well, what's the point? I also don't feel like her gun was really the issue either. I think we have a lack of tanks in Overwatch 2 with any sort of significant range, and I don't think the gun was the issue here. I think, again, we talk about the fact that Fortify, you can't cancel the enemy. We talked about the enemy Orisa mirror is really boring because you can't javelin spin, cancel the javelins with a javelin, right? You can't cancel spin with a javelin. Fortify still feels too tanky because you can't headshot her. Imagine if they reduced, isn't Fortify 40% chat, or am I smoking something? Imagine if they went from 40% to 50% damage reduction, but you could headshot her, right? So it would be an indirect nerf to Fortify, but make it also way more rewarding if you hit your shots. So like, or something along the lines to reduce her survivability. This just doesn't feel like the thing that needed to be nerfed. How are we doing, by the way? The problem, pull Discord on your phone, use that as Twitch chat. I mean, that's what I normally do, but it's not working. No, it doesn't work. So anyway, I'll check chat when I can. I don't understand. This is like the classic Blizzardism, where something is a problem. Okay, Orisa is probably too strong. Okay, got it. So let's nerf something about Orisa that is actually not the problem whatsoever and just make her feel not as fun to play. I don't get it. And they did the same thing with Mercy from what I know, so I don't understand. Nobody's complaining about Orisa's damage range, at least nobody with a brain. It's still projectile, it still has an overheat mechanism, it still loses damage at range, and the slash is harder to hit. I don't understand this. It's the survivability, not the damage range. Why are we adjusting the damage range? Am I missing something? This is the Blizzard classic. It's just the Blizzard classic. Okay. Annihilation. Okay. Ultimate cost increased. Damaging is when the ultimate now slows the duration timer instead of pausing lasts up to 20 seconds. Okay, this is cool. This is good. I will give credit with Blizzard. This puts a lot more thought into the ultimate. And also the no infinite duration is also good. I still think the ultimate stinks though. Respectfully, I don't think it's fun to use. And it's just an AoE Moira orb that allows more Nemesis form. I don't think that's good. My suggestions would be something along the lines of damage reduction, a damage mitigation, reducing enemy damage output, increasing friendly. I mean, there's something more nuanced than just does damage and lets Nemesis form last for long. Even if it's like, we wouldn't want any major percentage points here, but I just don't like AoE damage, and that's the ultimate. I don't like it. This is better. It definitely removes the most frustrating and annoying part of the ability and makes it a little bit more nuanced, but it's still not where we need to find, again, it's what does it do? It just AoE damage. It doesn't, like, Zenyatta's Transcendence is infinitely more interesting and more difficult to use and more thoughtful to use. This one is still pretty brainless. So it's better, but still not good enough. Probably be okay with the slow. Sure, something, right? There has to be some sort of thought into it. And I know people don't like damage mitigation or damage output. Well, AoE damage is just boring. I'm sorry. Nobody likes... Utility is such a controversial thing, but you want utility. Trust me, you want utility in your game. Base health and roll Q, it's the same thing with they did with the Sojourner. It's like, let's remove the interesting part of it and leave the damage, high damage. Base health and roll Q, okay. Cooldown reduced from 8 to 7 seconds. I think this is overall good. I think people are missing the point with this one a little bit. I saw some people were like, oh, he's going to be able to pin more often. I think it's more about, like, you can actually use your pin to move around the map easier and more often. So this is actually a pretty nice buff to, like, his mobility, which is good. Damage increased, that's pretty nice. I mean, it's a hard to hit projectile, so I don't have a problem with this. Like, I think it's probably okay. Direct damage reduced, that's fine. Knockdown duration increased, that's great. Ultimate cost increased. Sure, I guess this is to compensate for this and for this. Knockback reduced. I don't know where I feel about with this one, but these seem like overall quality of life changes. I think even the 0.25 seconds is a good change. The fire strike thing is a good change. This seems reasonable. We'll have to see how it goes. I think the more significant changes are these two right here, and to an extent this one right here, to a lesser extent. But I think I do think the fire strike damage is significant, and I do think the charge to change is significant as well. Okay, sure, I guess. I'm not a big fan of Whole Hog either. Whole Hog, again, is just kind of not a super interesting ultimate to use, but sure, that's fine. Ultimate cost increased. Okay, I'm not really sure what the deal is with that. That's like a classic Blizzard of something's going on behind the scenes that we don't know. Maybe the win percentage is too high. I mean, who knows, right? Maybe they're generating it too fast. Nobody knows. Checking chat as best as I can. Again, barrier health, like, sure. I mean, it's not a big deal, but yeah, okay. Wrecking Ball, base health reduced from 600 to 450. Okay, so they just basically swapped 150 of his HP for shields. That's cute. That's cute. That's good. What did Ball need? Ball needed a way to do more damage without one-shotting people. Have more impact on the fight, right? He was impossible to kill, so survivability wasn't the problem, but it was the ability to do more consistently. Because old Ball would die instantly, but when he'd come in, he could do massive AoE damage or one-shot a squishy if he wanted to. He doesn't have that anymore. So now what we've done with the shields is we've increased his survivability a teeny tiny bit. But the more I see this more as like the opportunity to where he has to spend less time grabbing health packs and less time demanding, what is that, HP, and less time demanding support. So I think I like this change a pretty good amount, I think, because this seems like this is going to increase his uptime by a little bit, which is going to allow him to do more without it being a one-shot hero. Like, I slam it, I do one shot, and I think this also has the same thing. We're not increasing pile driver damage, we're reducing its cooldown so you can do stuff more often. Yeah, I like these changes. What do you guys think? How am I doing with the internet? We're surviving. I like these changes. I think this is a good change. The shields thing is a very minor, it's not a very minor, but it's a minor survivability buff, which is a little bit, but it's a good survivability buff, like the Junker Queen buff that buffs one of his weaknesses, which is his reliability, or relying on health packs, relying on getting healing in his downtime. This will increase his uptime 100%. Ultimate cost increase, arming time reduced from 1.5. I don't like this. It feels already short as it is. There's not a lot of counterplay. I get that you don't get 5Ks every time you use the ultimate, but I think the ultimate power was fine. This is going to feel pretty bad for a lot of immobile heroes. You're not going to be given much time. And remember, Mine's value wasn't just from killing people. It was from the AoE, space control, the blocking of LOS, the fact that they still lie there so that if you don't destroy them, you could get knocked into it. I don't like this change. I like these changes though, but this one, I don't like this change. I think it was unnecessary. Like, again, this is like classic Blizzard. It's a very minor example of classic Blizzard, but like, was Minefield a problem? I don't feel like it was. So why are we messing with it? I get the ball was a little bit weak, but his ultimate wasn't the reason why it was weak, right? This would be like just flat buffing his survivability, like giving him 50 more armor. Why would you do that, right? Hey, Lunatic. Um, yeah, I do think this is gonna make ball good. I think it's gonna be more map specific still, but I feel like this is gonna make ball good, especially when you combo it like everything that you can't. Nothing's done in a vacuum, right? What's happened? Ball's better. Winston's teeny bit worse. Sigma's teeny bit worse. Roadhog is still trash, right? And is one of the better ball counters and is not very strong damage wise. Reinhardt's a little bit better, but Ball doesn't care about Reinhardt. In fact, Ball does very well into Reinhardt. Ramatra, Ball does well versus Ramatra, plus Ramatra got nerfed a teeny bit. Junker Queen got buffed, but I don't think Ball is too concerned with Junker Queen. Doomfist is still bad. Diva is whatever. I think we could have a ball. We could have some ball. We could have some ball. We could have some ball, guys. We could have some ball. I think ball will probably be pretty good. I mean, I don't remember exactly what the map pool was. Isn't Havana coming back? So, you know, yeah, we could definitely see some ball here. Zarya, ultimate cost. Okay. I mean, again, another minor buff to ball. So, you know, any tank that's not as good. I think. Well, let's keep looking at the other changes here. Movement is no longer blocked by enemy player collisions. Okay. Primary fall off encouraged for 2025. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's fine. I still wish to goodness that they'd work on something with Magnetic Grenade. I assume there's something more going on behind the scenes. I'm going to give them some credit because Magnetic Grenade is a horrific ability. Just one of the worst things that Blizzard has ever come out with up there with Ramatra's ult. But this is like, he really isn't much of a mid-range hero. He just gets outshined by Sojourn and such. So I guess we'll see. This is fine. This ability was too easy to cheese, whatever. This is actually, I feel like, a pretty significant nerf because it's going to really, really hurt the 2 taps. I think this is significant. Okay. Love these 5% changes. Love it. Sure. Number of shots to reach maximum recoil from 4 to 6. Recoil reduced. Yeah. That's fine. Sure. Damage per projectile increased from 7 to 7.5. Why? Where did they say projectile? For bullet, I think, because it's anyway. Whatever. Okay, sure. That's fine. I don't know. That's fine as well, I guess. Yeah, sure. 30 seconds did seem like really short in actual like action. It sounds like a long time, but like in action, I think was it before? Was it 60 seconds before, guys? Was it 60 seconds before? Ramatra, you can stop ball momentum. True, that's true. But still, it's hard. Like, that's a big cooldown. Okay. Symmetra, ultimate and cost increased. That's funny. Sure. Alright. Widowmaker, base health. Ooh! Yeah. Yeah, this is a ball buff. Okay. It's not a ball buff, actually. That's actually not fair. Because you remember metas are evolve around a strong hero or 2, and then heroes that complement the hero. If Widowmaker is very popular, Ball is therefore more meta. But if Widowmaker is very weak, then Ball is not as meta. If that makes any sense. But I don't know. It's interesting. Okay. Good. This has been needed for a while. I'm glad that they actually did this. Probably good here too. So this is like a little bit of a burst heal. As long as I don't have a problem with burst heals. I think everyone has a problem with burst heals. I don't have a problem with burst heals as long as they're very weak. As long as it's a minor burst heal. Like for example, BAP's shift. First off, I hate BAP shift, but like BAP shift is in of itself not a problem. It's when you have the double BAP shift when they get really low. That's where I really get ticked off. You know what I'm saying? So I think this is okay. Ultimate cost reduced. I mean, Rally is still a mess, but whatever, sure. Okay. Mercy. Okay, here comes the juice. Cooldown increase from 1.5 to 2.5. I just don't like this. I just don't like this. I just don't like it. I think like you could find a middle ground here, maybe 2 seconds. But this is like, I mean, this is historically the part of Mercy that was the most rewarding and most challenging, and definitely one of her strengths that rewarded the skill. And now, like, I'm telling you guys, you're gonna feel this if you play Mercy. And not only this, you're gonna feel this if you're playing Mercy. I promise you, if you're a Tracer player, or Winston player, or Ball player, you are going to notice this. You are going to notice this. You're gonna dive a target, and we're talking not 1 second here. We're talking a 67% increase in cooldown. I mean, this is minor as well. Whatever. I mean, I don't know enough about the speed stuff. Whatever. But you're gonna feel this. You're gonna feel this. It's gonna be a lot easier to dive or isolate Mercy, which was one of the reasons why initially, anyway, she wasn't as. Wait a second. Ultimate cost. This is weird. Okay. By the way, this is also weird. Lucio, I don't think needed any help at all, so I don't get this. But then, yeah, this is. I don't like this. Now, listen, guys. I'm not a Mercy main by any stretch of the term. Probably one of my least played heroes. I'm also one of her biggest haters when it comes to like initial design. I think there's a lot of things wrong with her design. I think she's too simplistic. But this isn't it. I really don't think this is it. I think if you wanted to say that GA was too easy to get away, you could probably make a good argument. But 2 seconds, something like that. I don't know. 2.5 seems like a lot. Now I'm gonna hold off my judgment hammer. Like I did with Orisa, for example, because I'm not sure. We'll have to wait and see, but I'm skeptical. I'm skeptical about this. This is cute. This is cute. I'm a fan of this. I love the whole, they said something, the triage kind of a heal. Yeah, right here. I remember reading this. This makes a lot of sense to me. It brings a sense of hierarchy or priority with who you heal and how you heal. And that is very much in line with Mercy's design. And I think that's an excellent change. I'm just not so sure how I feel about this one. Regeneration passive removed. Mercy heals it. This is interesting as well. There's definitely times when this is going to feel bad, but I'm fine with it. Did Valk get buffed as well? Or am I smoking something? Didn't Valk get buffed? Something like that? Why they didn't change her res or damage boost? I mean, that's the thing. That's the classic Blizzard thing. So I'm actually, so here's the, I mean, I've talked about this with SKSD. You guys saw my collaboration with SKSD. I think y'all's complaints about damage boost are way overblown. You're just complaining about Sojourn Railgun being within. Nobody complained about damage boost until Sojourn came around. And you're like, well, actually that is true. Trust me, no, that was not even in the top 30 of problems in Overwatch. It's damage boost is what Mercies do in downtime. It's what gives the hero thought process and ability to impact the fight. So I'm like, I get the problems with damage boost, but I think they're seriously overblown. My problem is more to do with res, because I don't think res is fun for either party to deal with at all. It doesn't add complexity or intrinsic or new interest or nuance. It's just an ability you press once every like 5 minutes. So I think res is dumb. I agree with you there, but I disagree with damage boost. That being said, people were complaining about Mercy Guardian Angel, yes, but I think if they had done something with res or adjust the cooldown here, I think this would have been better. Like, I feel like we're moving the. Here's the problem with Blizzard. I feel like right now, it feels like they move in the right direction with stuff, but it's like one step at a time. And what ends up happening is like you have these monstrosities that are like really gross to play rather than like a finished product. For example, right now, this is good. Right? This is good. I'm fine with that. Even this has potential to be good. But what is this? What is that? And why is res still here? It's like a job half done. And the problem is that we don't have any communication about it. So it's not like, remember when they communicate with Brig, like they've got something going on behind the scenes, just hold on tight to your britches, you know, we got something cooking, you know. That's why I'm not critical of the Rally change, you know. I don't like Rally that much. I think Rally is one of the worst ults in the game when it comes to design. But, okay, you know, they're working on something. I'm down to wait, you know. Same thing with a Hog, right? Hog is still kind of an abomination, kind of dull, whatever. We're waiting for some stuff, you know. He's weak. He's not as impressive right now. But right now, it's like, is this what Mercy's going to be moving forward? That I don't think that's going to be very fun or engaging. I don't think people are going to like that. So is there something else cooking with res? Is there something else cooking with Guardian Angel where you're not going to need it as much because you'll find utility elsewhere? It seems, I think one of the things people were saying was like, it seems weird to buff the triage healer thing where in a moment's notice you're able to prioritize the right thing, but then nerf her ability to actually utilize that, right? When you buff this is going to mean you adjusting and switching targets it's going to mean that's more important, and yet you've nerfed her ability to do that. I don't understand. And again, I don't know if this is just a halfway point where we're at right now, but things will fall into place once we get everything lined up. But again, we're not told that. We don't know. So all we're left with is a really not a very cohesive hero. At least that's my initial take on it. It just, I don't know. Like, what do you want the hero to be? You know, what's her identity? We don't even know the answer to that. So how can we possibly balance this hero? You want her to be a triage healer. Okay, why are we nerfing her mobility? Why does a triage healer need to resurrect? You know, if you don't like damage boost, okay, so then what's going to be her utility, right? And like, what's the deal with Moira? Do we even know what the deal with Moira is anymore? Like, why are we indirectly buffing Moira? We don't care about Moira. Moira, screw off, Moira. Boring hero, Moira. Sorry, Moira mains, but your hero sucks. I don't know. I mean, I play Zen. I like the buff. I would 10 times rather prefer a hitbox buff where we could actually like make the hitbox less like a balloon than an ammo nerf or a buff. I don't look at Zen and be like, oh, his problem is he doesn't have enough ammo. I look at Zen and I'm like, he's just too easy to assassinate because his hitbox is disproportionately big. And that seems like the most fair way of buffing his survivability without the 25 more shield health. I don't know, chat. A lot of classic Blizzards, where it's like, wait, why? There are some good things in here. I think the Wrecking Ball changes are good. I feel like the Reinhardt changes are probably pretty good too. Things like the Junkrat change seem reasonable. Junker Queen seems reasonable. But a lot of questions, as usual. The Mercy ones being the big one, and then to a lesser extent, like the Orissas, the Zenyatas, and so on. Like, what are we trying to accomplish here? Even the Ramatra. Like, let me ask you an honest question, guys. Is Ramatra's ult going to stay the same way? Is that what we have it to do? They said something about damage reduction, then that got removed, and we don't even know why, or if it was a mistake or whatever. And is it just going to be a general AoE damage ult? Is that just what it is now? Because that would suck if that's the case, but we don't know if that's the case. We said we have this guy. So make res her ult again, but only single target as is right now. Limit her damage boost in a way, maybe with a cooldown, and Ingeborg gives some offensive playmaking. Yeah, I mean, we talked about a lot of these things with SKSD's stream. I just don't think that people have good idea with what to do. I don't like the damage boost resource meter, because that's once again going to leave you with Mercies having downtime where they can do nothing but heal. Like, you're talking about a support that doesn't have a gun, that doesn't have mechanics. You could argue that something like Brig has a little bit of downtime as well, but I think Mercy has probably some of the most. I don't know. There's a lot of ideas, but I don't see the Mercy community piping up enough with good ideas. That's why I was talking about SKSD. I'd love if these guys like come up with some really good ideas, because there's got to be some ideas out there. Is Mercy supposed to be more versatile like Kiriko? I mean, that's the thing, like where are we going? I think the buff to her triage healing and her that's very interesting, but I don't know. Not sure. Okay, chat. I'm sadly going to have to end stream. We were going to do a tier list, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it. I'm still having internet issues, which sucks. But loves and kisses. The Psev collab was awesome. The coaching was awesome earlier. I'll get that uploaded on YouTube. The good news is, by the way, I've got more collaborations in the works. I have a collaboration next Thursday. I will announcing that one later. Still getting some more of those in the works. This Thursday, we'll have another free raffle review. We'll do our tier list. We'll maybe do some Ask Spilo. Yeah, we'll have a lot of stuff this Thursday coming up as well. This weekend, I will not be streaming. But like I said, next week, we've got a lot of fun and juicy stuff. And I'm finally finished up and processing all the feedback. I've got a little bit of a hierarchy list of things that we're doing. But yeah, we've got so many fun YouTube videos that are coming up behind the scenes. So stay tuned. Okay. Yeah, cheers, man. I'm glad you like the Spilo stuff too. But yeah, loves and kisses, mates. I'll chat with you guys later. I will see you guys in 2 days. ! Coaching! ! Your mama. Spilo out.